the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and I hope you guys are having an enjoyable Friday evening / Saturday morning. Maybe some of you guys are heading to Subaru Park when you guys are listening to this episode. I'm not quite sure when you guys are listening to it, but one thing I do know is you guys did not get a Friday morning podcast, which I planned on doing, and that just did not happen. I gave you guys the goals breakdown video instead on YouTube, about a 15 to 16 minute long video breaking down all the misses Nashville had in that game. Of course, I broke down the 2 goals that the Union scored in that game, and I was just way too tired. I planned on giving you guys both a podcast and the breakdown videos, and only one of those things happened. And so I do apologize that you guys were probably expecting the podcast one Friday morning. It didn't come. And yeah, I was just crazy tired from work and back-to-back nights. Previously, I'd stayed up until 11:30. And yeah, that was not smart. Obviously, staying up, watching the game on Wednesday and then covering the press conference. And then it's like, all right, well, time to go to bed. And yeah, I thought I'd be able to record the podcast and give you guys the goals breakdown video after I came home from work. It did not happen. And you guys know the drill by now. Anytime that we do midweek episodes, we don't go over news. We don't go over blunder of the week. We just talk about the game. And I want to keep this episode around 30 minutes. We'll see how I do. And anytime, you guys know, anytime I mention my goal for how long I want the podcast to be, it always goes over. So you guys are going to have a good idea, better than me, on how long this podcast is going to take. But the goal is no more than 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the Nashville game. I have a whole bunch of sound bites I want to play from Jim Curtin. And, you know, it is, I guess, kind of a good thing that we're recording this Friday evening, because Jim Curtin had his midweek press conference right before the New York City game. And so I was able to get his thoughts on Jesus Bueno and about experimenting with Jesus and Jose Martinez, both in the starting 11. And so we'll play that clip. We also got an update on, did the Union appeal Julian Carranza's red card that he received against Nashville? So we'll talk about that here in a bit. And we also got an update on Andre Blake and Damian Lowe. And we'll also talk about that here at the end of the podcast. But man, I'll be honest with you guys. I did not expect a 2-0 victory for the Union down in Nashville. I didn't expect that at all. And I think we can all agree that the Union got very fortunate in this game. I mean, when a team has an XG of 2.1 and doesn't score a single goal, and you add on top of that, Joe Bendick didn't have to make a single save, you know you were very, very fortunate to come away with all 3 points. But you add a clean sheet on top of that? I mean, have you guys ever seen this before where a team was expected to score 2 goals and the opposition's goalkeeper did not make a single save? We complained about how, the Union weren't clinical in Atlanta. They weren't clinical in LA. We've talked about how the Union need to get more shots on target, how they need to create more chances. Well, Nashville created a ton of chances in this game. They just could not finish to save their life. And you know, as well as I do, you are very, very fortunate to have won this game. Because, let's be honest, Nashville should have been up 2-0 within the first 16 minutes of this game. Let's be real for a second. They should have. The Union should have conceded the first goal. They should have given up multiple goals in the first 15 minutes of this game. And they do neither, which, you know, good on the Union. Good on the Union. Have they ended the streak of conceding first? Have they ended the streak of conceding in the first 15 minutes just because of this result against Nashville? I don't think so. But this is something you can build off of 100%. And if Nashville, if they would have had a striker that, can finish, the Union would have lost this game. They had 5 huge chances in this game, and they wasted them all. And I talked about that in the goals breakdown video. If you guys haven't seen that yet on YouTube, youtube.com/freekickpod, you guys will see all the really good chances that Nashville created. Because it's not like they didn't create in this game. It's not like the Union did anything spectacular to stop Nashville from scoring. Nashville did it themselves. Nashville beat Nashville. The Union didn't beat Nashville, even though I know technically they did. And yes, the Union did create their own chances. Both penalties that the Union won were 100% penalties. It was terrible defending by Daniel Lovitz. He's the one who gave away both penalties in this game, pushed Daniel Gazdag behind the back with a cross-in by Kai Wagner for the first goal in the first half. And then in the second half, Daniel Lovitz completely takes out Mika Ua. 100% a dangerous tackle. Not great defending. And this Nashville team's supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in all of MLS. And they are, don't get me wrong, right? Walker Zimmerman, one of the best center backs in all MLS. Nashville did not look good defensively at all. And this is what the Union needed. They needed this confidence. They get 1 goal in Atlanta in LA. And now they get 2 goals in Nashville. Now, granted, both of them were on penalties. But look, a goal's a goal, right? It's not the Union's fault that they have Mr. Automatic and Daniel Gazdag. He can convert penalties. Like I said, both penalties earned were stone cold penalties, 100%. And when you're given penalties, it's not the Union's fault. They can't say, "Oh yeah, we don't want this penalty. We know you fouled us, but don't give us a penalty because we've earned the most penalties so far in MLS. You don't have to give us another penalty. It's okay." Now, the Union aren't going to say that. Nashville beat Nashville. And maybe some of you guys are going to say, "No, the Union beat Nashville. The Union were the better team on the night." But I don't think so. I really do not think so. Because you look at all the chances that Nashville created in this game. They just can't finish. Teal Bunbury is not it. Fafa Pico, we know that, right? The Union tried to play him as a striker in 2019 when Ernst Tanner officially took over as sporting director for his first full season. And Fafa's not a striker. And good on Fafa for continuing to play in this league, for still having a job in MLS. Credit to him for signing with a team that plays a diamond, doesn't play with a winger. A team that believed, "Hey, look, Fafa, we're going to play you as a striker. We know it didn't work out for you in Philadelphia when you played there, but we're going to give it a go and see if we can make something work." And hey, look, he's not complaining. Nashville's giving him a chance. Good on him. But he's not a striker. CJ Sapong, a decent striker, but they ship him out to Toronto. Ake Lobar, not a striker. And I can't fault Nashville for going out and signing Loba, taking a chance on him. It's what happens when you sign young players. They're not always going to hit. And Nashville thought that they had something potentially in Loba, the young Ivory Coastan it did not work out. And there's reports that they're on the verge of signing Nottingham Forest striker Sam Sergii for a little bit over $6.5 million. And I'm sure we'll talk about that once the news becomes official. But this is not a guy that Nashville should be relying on to solve all their number 9 problems. And I don't know how much you guys pay attention to the Premier League, but he wasn't that striker for Bournemouth. He wasn't it for Nottingham Forest. And I said, yeah, once this news becomes official, we'll talk about it then. And here I am talking about it now a little bit, but we'll save it. We'll save it because I'm definitely going to go in on Nashville once this signing becomes complete. And maybe some of you guys are like, well, why does it matter? He's not a Union player. Like, why do you care if they sign Sam Sergii? I care because I want to see MLS sign good players, not players that couldn't get it done in the Premier League, not players that couldn't get it done in the Championship. And maybe Nashville's thinking, well, those two leagues are better than MLS. And so maybe he'll get it done in MLS. But you're really going to waste $6.5 million on a player that can't finish? That's the English version of Teal Bunbury. I mean, why am I complaining, right? It's not my money. I'm not the owner wasting his money on Sam Sergii. I'm not a Nashville fan. Why do I care? Why do I care this much? I want to see MLS signing young, unproven players. And at 24 years old, I've seen everything I need to see from Sam Sergii. He is not that guy. He is not that guy. And we'll see another year or two, Nashville are going to be looking for another number 9. Maybe Hany Mukhtar says, no, you guys can't give me a striker that finishes off the chances that I'm creating. This guy is carrying Nashville on his back. And he can't score every game. And I'm glad I brought that up. Because, yes, Nashville created a lot of chances against the Union. But at the same time, this has been the story of Nashville their last 5 games. It's why they're 1 win, 4 losses, 0 draws in their last 5 games. With only 2 goals. 2 goals scored. Hany Mukhtar hasn't scored since June 17th when he scored that hat trick against St. Louis in their 3-1 victory. And I understand. I completely understand why Nashville fans are angry and upset. Hany can't do it all. But yet, they've waited this long. They trade away CJ Sapong in hopes of Teal Bunbury carrying the load until the summer window opens up. And they only have 1 win in the last 5. And by the way, they take on Cincinnati in Cincinnati this weekend. It would be huge if both of those teams could draw, or if Nashville could come away with all 3 points. It would be huge for the Union. But do I see that happening? Absolutely not with the form that Nashville's in. And credit to Jesus Bueno and the Union. They did a good job shutting down Hany Mukhtar for the most part. Yeah, he still created chances in this game because the best players always will. It doesn't matter how many players you put on to double team a guy. Good players are still going to find a way to create. But nobody could finish off these plays. And I'm not sure if you guys noticed this during the game, but the later the first half went on, the more we saw Liam Flock and Ali Bedoya drifting out wide, opening up space for the 2 fullbacks to make those overlapping runs. And I asked Jim Curtin about that, and this is what he had to say.
When we're in the diamond, our only width comes from those wing back or fullbacks getting forward. So when Nathan runs in the box, when Mbaizo runs in the box, we're more dangerous on the attack. It's good for him to overlap and create chances. I thought Kai did a great job for his first game back as well. So again, total team effort. Could Nashville have scored a few goals? Of course, guys. I'm not naive. I understand that, but we grinded tonight and looked like ourselves, and I thought we're hard to play against. So you get rewarded for that the more times you do it on a consistent basis. So happy for the guys.
Look, and at least Jim Curtin can admit, right, that he's not naive. That, yeah, they're a little bit fortunate to keep a clean sheet, to beat Nashville. But isn't this game, about earning your luck? You put in the performances week in, week out. Eventually, things are going to start falling your way. And that's what happened against Nashville. The Union caught every single break that you could possibly get. And I hear Danny Higginbottom talk about, the Union, they need to create more width. And you heard Jim there say, yeah, the only width we ever get in the diamond is from those fullbacks. And yeah, I thought the reason we saw the Union give up so many chances early on in the first half is because the Union were playing too narrow. And Nashville were actually doing a good job using their width. And as the first half went on, like I said, the Union started to go out wide with Leon Flock and Ale Bedoya. And now you're spreading Nashville out wide. Now you're having overloads, whether it be on the left side or the right side, with your fullbacks overlapping. And now instead of having 1v1 defending, you have a 2v1. And now you're opening up space in the middle. You're pulling guys out of position. And that is why we saw the Union eventually get that penalty kick in the first half. I talked about it. I showed it in the goals breakdown video, if you guys haven't seen it. But Jesus Bueno is on the ball. And all 9 players for Nashville are behind the ball. They are all sucked in the middle. And Kai Wagner has a ton of space on the left-hand side. It's because they were using that width to build up on the play with Leon Flock, and then they moved the ball to the right. Nate Harriel had a whole bunch of space. And then they swing the ball right back in the middle, and now it's way too congested in the middle. Jesus Bueno does a good job lifting his head and saying, hey, look, here comes Kai Wagner, overlapping run, ton of space on the left-hand side. Let's play the ball in. And now, Nashville has to shift out of position a little bit. Great cross in by Kai Wagner. And you have McNaughton out of position. Daniel Lovitz panics, pushes Daniel Gazdag, and now you have a penalty. And so that's good on the Union, using their width, where they adjust it to, hey, look, it's about surviving and advancing. And you're going to have moments in the games where 10, 15 minutes, you're under an intense amount of pressure. But if you can survive that, and now bring that same pressure you just sustained to the opposition, finish your chances. And that's exactly what the Union did. And was this a great game overall by the Union? No, I don't believe so. Sometimes you have to win ugly. Yes, you get lucky at times. But the more times that you create chances, the more times you keep doing something consistently over and over and over again, luck's gonna fall your way. And that's exactly what happened in this game. And all the fans were upset that, the Union looked bad on the road against Atlanta, against the Galaxy. And you knew this would be the toughest stretch in the season because of missing players in the Gold Cup. But now you feel better heading into the game tomorrow against New York City, because you potentially could have been heading into this game on a 3-game losing streak. Now you're facing a 4-game losing streak. You haven't done that in forever. The last 3-game losing streak the Union had was in 2018, if you want to include that playoff loss to New York City. If not, then you have to go back to 2017. And we could spend a long time actually talking about that. How the Union have changed the culture of this team where early on, and that's why you guys always said, oh, that's so Union, because they found all these different ways to lose. You guys headed to Subaru Park or PPL Park for all you OGs out there and said, I wonder how the Union are going to blow this one today. And you would have 3, 4, 5 game losing streaks. And the Union haven't had that since 2018. And that starts with Jim Curtin completely changing the culture, getting the players to buy in to his system, to this team, and finding ways to grind out results. And that's exactly what the Union did in Geodis Park. They grinded out a way to get all 3 points against Nashville. And hey, look, nobody's going to remember this game at the end of the season. I guarantee you that. But maybe we're sitting here saying, hey, look, this could be the difference of the Union winning the East, winning the Supporters' Shield, to not. This could be that game. I mean, last year, right? All the fans are looking at, well, because of that draw against New York Red Bulls, if we would have won that game, then we would have been hosting MLS Cup at Subaru Park. Maybe this game in Nashville is that game. Maybe it isn't. But it is good to have some momentum going into this game against New York City. Last game of the regular season before the league takes a break for Leagues Cup. And I know, guys, we're closing in on 30 minutes. So let's see how much of this podcast we can get done before 30 minutes. That referee performance might have been the worst referee performance I have ever seen in MLS. You had Columbus Crew fans pissed because Sergii Boiko had given out 9 yellow cards total and a red card to Wilfred Nancy in their game against New York City. And then Sergii gave out 4 yellows, 3 reds in this game between Nashville and Philadelphia. And then you have Jim Curtin getting a yellow card because he says the F word? Excuse me? You had, wait. Let's back up real quick. You had Kai Wagner when he gets called for a foul. He says, oh, F off to the referee. He says it every game. And referees don't even give him yellow cards for that. They let it slide. But this referee hears Jim Curtin say the F word, and you can't say that. That's a bad word. Here's a yellow card for you. Are we serious now? This is what Jim Curtin had to say after the game.
So I said the 4-letter F word, which again, if we're going to give yellow cards for that, I mean, we might as well just cancel the sport because no one would finish a game. So I did. I said F, you know the word. That's what I said, and I say it all the time, and I will continue to say it. And if our sport's becoming that's a yellow card, then I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to finish games. And it was, I'll just say that's a precursor to what happened with the rest of it. You guys watched it. Is that what we want our league to look like? That's my only question. Is that really what we want our league to look like? End in 9-7 or whatever it winds up. So it's not good. Then it starts with that. I was the first yellow card, and I maybe started the emotions by using a curse word as a 44-year-old man.
Do you guys think that Jim Curtin's the reason why the game went out of control? Because he's the first person to get a yellow card? Maybe. But this referee lost complete control of the game, and the only way that he could get control back was by giving out red cards. You have Nashville players pissed because Daniel Lovitz gets sent off. But before that, they're pissed because they thought they had a penalty on Jack McGlynn off of a corner kick. They thought that, hey, look, yeah, the ball hits his hand. There's a penalty. And the referee initially gives it, then looks at VAR and says, no penalty. Jack McGlynn heads the ball away and then it hits him on his arm. But Jack McGlynn's not making himself bigger in that play. And so I see why the referee didn't give the penalty. I mean, that could have went either way. And so I understand why the fans, the players are pissed that they didn't get a penalty there. where the referee had already given a penalty in this game. And then 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, another penalty given to the Union. But both penalties, I said it earlier, both were clear cut. And the one that Nashville earned, not so much. And so the Nashville players aren't controlling their emotions. And then you have a fan throw a plastic bottle at Jack McGlynn after the Union are celebrating in front of their supporters section. And spoiler alert, Sunday, that's going to be blunder of the week. Definitely going to go in on the people that were defending the actions by that individual who threw the bottle, because that's sickening. So I don't want to get too worked up here on this podcast because I want to save that for Sunday/Monday. But yeah, the Union players are probably pissed that they got something thrown at them. They just scored a goal. But some fan couldn't control his temper, throw something on the field. So I'm sure that doesn't help. Jim Curtin saying the F word gets a yellow card. That probably doesn't help. And then Shaq Moore, completely unhinged, fouls Julian Carranza straight up. Julian Carranza puts his hands around Shaq Moore's neck. All right, yeah, that's going to earn you a red card. And by the way, Jim Curtin mentioned this afternoon, that the team did not appeal Julian's red card, so he'll miss tomorrow's game against New York City, and there is no additional games being added to Julian for putting his hands on his neck. So that's good. But man, referee completely lost control of this game. What a terrible referee performance. And somehow he still keeps his job, right? After not having any control of this game and losing control, like I said, the previous week between Columbus and New York City. Loses control of the Nashville and Philadelphia game. And this is a referee, by the way. He's from Ukraine. Fled the country with the war going on. But he has experience refereeing UEFA matches, Europa League qualifying matches, Champions League qualifying matches, the Ukrainian National League games. He has a ton of experience. He's reffed games at the highest level. But he can't control an MLS game? Come on now. Come on. Julian Carranza, since we're talking about him, let's stay on that topic. He didn't have his sharpest night. It was a rough night for Julian. And not even just because he got a red card. But we saw that pass in the first half into Quinn Sullivan. Quinn Sullivan's making that forward run. Gets in behind Walker Zimmerman. It's a weak pass by Julian into Quinn Sullivan. Should have played it with more pace. A little bit more in forward for Quinn. Probably gets a shot on target. And there were a lot of other poor passes in this game by Julian. Lost the ball 3 times in this match. His touch wasn't great. He was limited to only 1 shot in this game. I think it's pretty clear that Nashville's game plan coming in this game was, 1, limit the number of chances Julian Carranza takes in this game, and 2, limit his shots. And they did exactly that. And I actually thought that Mikhail Uhre should have been the player coming off for him and not Quinn Sullivan. And that's not what happened. Julian Carranza stays on and eventually gets a red card, but even if Julian didn't get a red card, still wasn't the greatest game overall on the night by Julian. The set piece defending should have been better. Has to be better. Because if it's a team that can finish, the Union would have got punished. Nashville were first to the ball off of corners 3 out of 7 times. You had Alex Muyl and Fafa Pico go unmarked on that corner kick in the 69th minute where you had Fafa headed off the post. and then you had the Union blocking multiple shots. It's got to be better defending one set pieces by the Union, in my opinion. But other than that, there's nothing you can really critique about this game. One player I want to shout out before we get into 3 stars on the night, Quinn Sullivan. I mean, he's right there. I mean, if you guys want to say he was one of the best players on the night, 100%, you have a case. Because that was definitely Quinn Sullivan's best game of the season. Best game ever for the Union? Maybe. That game in Chicago where he scored that crazy bicycle kick, that might be his best game. But definitely his best game of the season. And Jim Curtin mentioned that Quinn Sullivan's going to get the start again against New York City. He was going to get the start regardless if Julian Carranza got his red card rescinded or not. Completed all 9 of his passes, made really strong runs into the box, did a good job pulling Walker, Zimmerman, and McNaughton out of position at times. And I liked him shooting from distance, keeping Joe Willis on his toes. More of that, please, Quinn Sullivan. Fantastic game by him. And hopefully he brings that same energy tomorrow against New York City. But let's go ahead and talk about 3 stars on the night, starting from 3 to 1. Jesus Bueno. 40 out of 47 passes completed, 9 passes into the final third, 2 out of 3 accurate long balls, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 2 interceptions, 10 ball recoveries. The reason I bring up the long balls is because this is what the Union asked Jose Martinez to do. And when we've seen Leon Flock play as a 6, he doesn't have the passing range like Jose. So it was good to see Jesus Bueno hit those diagonal passes that we've come to love from Jesus Bueno. And I asked Jim Curtin this afternoon, it's been a long time coming for Jesus Bueno. His first 2 seasons barely played at all for the Union. And now he's finally getting meaningful minutes. What's been the difference, this season for Jesus compared to previous seasons?
First of all, he came in really fit this offseason. He learned a new culture, a new system, a new style of play. He's a great professional, a great player. That was clearly his best game for us against Nashville. The amount of balls he won, playing forward, dealing with Mukhtar, who's probably the MVP of our league this season so far. I thought that Jesus did an incredible job for us. The tricky part is now in 2 days of recovery. Can he replicate that and do it again from the start? We'll make a decision there. But overall, a guy, because he works so hard in training every day, is a true professional. He gets rewarded with more and more minutes. And the belief and trust in the staff and from Ernst, from myself, is only growing and growing. So he's a guy that is right there for being in our starting lineup. When everybody's here, healthy, no suspensions, no international duty, he's right in there in the discussions for the starting 11 now, and he's earned that.
Yeah, Jesus Bueno has 100% earned that. His best game against Nashville in a Union shirt. No doubt about it. And I'm so happy that Jesus Bueno is finally getting his opportunity. He came into preseason extremely fit, like Jim Curtin said. And this is what you want. You want players that are pissed off, that deserve to be playing. Because that's just going to make the other players better. And we've seen that by Jesus Bueno. He looks so comfortable against Nashville. And I feel bad putting him as number 3 on the night. But the other 2 players in front of him had bigger games. If they didn't have as bigger games as they did, then Jesus Bueno is probably winning star number 1 on the night. But I asked Jim Curtin, as a coaching staff, have you guys thought about potentially experimenting with Jesus at the 6 and Jose Martinez as one of the 8s?
Yeah, we talk about, believe it or not, we talk about a lot of things as a staff and trying different things. And one of those would be getting them both on the field at some point. I think that they both can play the side of the diamond. They both can play the 6. Some games, maybe we play with 2 6s. So those are certainly options and things that we discuss on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's good to hear from Jim. And I was thinking about this when I was putting together the notes. You've got 2 destroyers in Jesus Bueno and Jose Martinez. What about Richard Odada? We haven't seen him with the first team yet. And this is another big player. Imagine him on the field at the 6, Jesus Bueno, and Jose Martinez as your 2 8s. Maybe that's a plan. Maybe that was the plan all along. Because LA Bedoya is not going to be here forever. Maybe the Union win MLS Cup and LA says, you know what? I want to go out a champion and retires. Who's going to fill in for him? Do you go out and buy a new number 8? Probably. But Jesus Bueno is going to get an opportunity to play there. Jose Martinez, could he play there? You heard Jim Curtin say, yeah, it's a possibility. But what if you play Jose and Jesus as your 2 8s, Richard Odada as a 6? Now you got 3 destroyers on the field. And man, that's a midfield that teams would not want to face. Guys that are going to rough you up. Maybe that's what the Union were planning for all along. Number 2, Jack Elliott. 6 out of 8 accurate long balls, 2 out of 2 tackles won, 2 clearances off the line, 2 blocks, 9 clearances, 3 interceptions, 1 ball recoveries. And that performance was good enough to earn Jack Elliott a spot on Team of the Match Day. And that was by far Jack Elliott's best game of the season. And hopefully, this is the start for Jack Elliott to start to come back into his own. Come back to the center back that he was last season. Because the Union need that. They needed him and Jacob Glesnes and the rest of the defense to be lights out like they were so often last year. And why not start it now? Why not start it now with 12 games to go the rest of the season? Be a great opportunity for Jack Elliott to now really start to catch fire and make those attackers not want to go his side of the field because he plays that good defensively. And then number 1, Daniel Gazak, 2 goals, 1 chance created, 9 passes into the final third, 5 out of 6 ground duels won, 1 interception, 5 ball recoveries, 1 out of 1 tackles won. Guys, Mr. Automatic, what more do we have to say about Daniel Gazak? Phenomenal performance. And yeah, go ahead. You can make fun of him being a pen merchant. We know, but we love him. I would rather have a player that we're confident that's going to score a penalty because, again, I always go back to OG Union fans, I feel like. Because you guys remember days where the Union did not have a true number 1 penalty taker. There's players that were stepping up for penalties that you guys were not confident in. There was players fighting over the ball. Who's going to take a penalty? No, I want it. No, I earned the penalty. I'm taking it. Allberg. But the Union, okay, maybe we see fighting a little bit between Julian Carranza and Daniel Gazdag. But this team knows. Daniel Gazdag is a set penalty taker, and this guy's money. He is money. But that's it for this podcast. So I know definitely over the 30-minute mark here. I also want to mention real quick. Jim Curtin mentioned in his press conference that there will be rotation against New York City. So if you guys are listening to this podcast before the New York City game, expect to see lineup changes because Jim said he wants to keep things fresh. Andre Blake and Damian Lowe are both back from national team duty with Jamaica. Damian Lowe has an infection. He's been taking medication. So hopefully that kicks in and he'll be available tomorrow. And then Jesus Martinez is good to go against New York City. And Jim said both him and Jesus will play a part in the game against New York City. But that's it for this podcast episode. So if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod. Wherever you get your podcast with The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube page, youtube.com/FreeKickPod. And as always, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, sharing the podcast, giving me feedback. And after the New York City review episode, some of you guys need to start reaching out and saying, hey, look, I want to come on the podcast because I want to talk to you guys. So we'll talk about Leagues Cup if you guys want. But I really, really, really want to talk about how you got into the Union, your thoughts on the season, and whatever else you guys want to talk about. If you want to talk about Leagues Cup, fine, we'll talk about it. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.